All of the early morning skating sessions, the hours spent traveling across the state with teammates and family, and the off-season conditioning had led to this moment for two teams. Tonight, small town meets big city as the defending champion Grand Forks Stallions and the top-seeded Crosby Comets collide in the Junior Gold Championship. Pour yourselves a drink. We'll provide the ice next on the Beck Sports Network. After a season that spanned for over 6 months, these 40 individuals are 60 minutes of ice time away from adding a glorified chapter in their program's rich history. The skates are sharp, the sticks are taped, and the fans are rowdy inside the Dakota Spirit Arena in Langdon, North Dakota. Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to the 2012 Junior Gold State Championship, where two teams from opposite ends of the state hit the ice in search of one trophy. It's the Grand Forks Stallions, the number 3 seed at 14-20-2, taking on the number 1 seed, the Crosby Comets, at 16-2. Stephen Watson joined alongside John Haddon here on the RTC pregame show. Glad to have you along on a Saturday night. Two teams that got to this state championship, John, in very different fashions.
Well, yeah, you look at the state semifinals alone just yesterday, which we had here on the Beck Sports Network. Crosby getting the 9-2 win over Watford City. Didn't seem like they had any trouble skating past the Oilers. The number 1 seed was coming off the bye in the first round. They were well rested, and they got to rest a lot of their top lines and their goaltender late in yesterday's game as well because of the wide margin of victory. Grand Forks, on the other hand, had to go toe-to-toe with Langdon all night, and somehow that defense was able to stifle that top line and the entire Blades team.
For Grand Forks, the Stallions, I mentioned 14-20-2, 9-4-1 in league play, however, under head coach Tony Bezeski. They're getting hot at the right time, John. Won 5 of their last 6 games. They're state champions a year ago. What do they need to do to repeat here tonight?
Well, I think they need to do what they did last night and put on an impressive performance for the fans here in Langdon. They did it against the hometown Blades by playing defense. If they can do what they did with Cameron Berg and in front of Cameron Berg last night, who was our player of the game in that game, they should have no trouble skating past Crosby. Of course, easier said than done.
And then the Comets, a team that is 12-1 in league play under head coach David Olson. They have not won a state championship, John, since 1990, but it seems like their experience and their goaltending are really coming to play at this point in this season. What is it that makes them so tough, and what do they need to do to get over the hump?
Well, I think that they've got a lot of options here, but the number 1 is to get past that defense that I just mentioned. On the other side, Crosby, you mentioned their league record. They only had 1 loss in league play. That didn't come to this Grand Forks team, so they've already taken down Grand Forks. Yet, things got switched up yesterday for the Stallions. The lines were different, and Crosby's going to have to figure out what matches up best and how they can continue to be effective as they were in the past against the Stallions.
You look at the road to this ship of how both teams, the Stallions and the Comets, got to this point in the state tournament. For Grand Forks, defeated Richland by a score of 5-3, and then took down Langdon, as John mentioned, 2-1 last night in Game 2 of a doubleheader on the Beck Sports Network. As for the Comets, they had a first-round bye as the number 1 seed, and then took down the Oilers of Watford City 9-2 yesterday afternoon. Much more ahead on the RTC pregame show as we roll on. Eric Manlove, the 3rd member of our broadcast crew, will be ice side with both coaches. Stick around. Puck drops in a couple of minutes on the Beck Sports Network. One team is perfect, while the other's lone loss came 2 months ago to its opponent tonight. Good evening, basketball fans, and welcome inside the Minot Municipal Auditorium for the Region 6 Championship between the Bottineau Braves and the Berthold Bombers, where tonight the winner will dance their way to Grand Forks for the Class B state tournament in 10 days. It's the RTC pregame show, reservation telephone cooperative, smarter, better, faster. Stephen Watson joined with Eric Manlove. Happy to have you along here on the Beck Sports Network. And Eric, we could talk for days about the storylines and the predictions of this matchup. If there's one thing that we know about this matchup, it's that it's going to be fast-paced.
Absolutely. Up and down the court, you'll see it a lot with Bottineau, Justin McLeod. He runs, gets up and down, he can do it all. And then on the other side, they got kids like Bloms and Yale that do the exact same thing everywhere up and down the court.
Start with the number 6 Bottineau Braves at 23-1 on this season under head coach Nate Simpson, coming off a 69-60 win over Des Lacs Burlington in the region semifinal. Loads of experience on this team. They start 4 seniors and 1 junior. I mentioned their only loss this season coming to Berthold. on January 14th, 76-62. And Eric, what do they need to do to avoid another loss to the Bombers?
They can't do what they did last time. They can't get off to a slow start because Berthold will bury you when you do that. Bottineau last night came out very slow, very sluggish, couldn't really shoot from the floor. It eventually developed. They were able to get LaCroix and McLeod going a little bit, but they had help off the bench. Tonight, those two guys got to start from the first minute, and they can't hop in about minute 30. They got to get going from the start tonight.
And their opponent tonight, the number 2 team in the state in the Berthold Bombers, a perfect 24-0 on the season under head coach Brock Tietz. They defeated Rugby 57-40 on Tuesday night. They're outscoring their opponents by 31 points per game. They have depth. They can go 10 deep in their lineup. But Eric, if you're going to pick one thing about this team that's made them so successful all season long, what do you go with?
It's pretty simple. It all starts with the Bombers for number 5, Dan Yale, the senior. He's the leader on this team, and you know what? He leads not only by scoring, but example. He doesn't have to be the leading scorer every night. He knows how to get other people involved. And it's been obvious the past couple of weeks with district tournament and this regional tournament where he's been sick, and he hasn't been able to be the go-to guy. He gets them going. He plays hard when he needs to, but he gets the other guys involved, so everybody's going when they need to be going.
We'll get to the storylines, everything in the RTC pregame show, and we roll on. Coming up, impact player, keys to the game, tip-off. Moments away on the Beck Sports Network. It's the Region 6 Championship coming up next.